So I think some of the most important things we can do in this space is ask questions, have disagreements, have these conversations about how ADA makes its way up from here. And specifically, there's two questions or two discussions that I want to highlight in this video. One, how are we going to get close to $1 to $2 if we're having trouble breaking out of these ranges currently? And two, how is ADA going to perform well later on this market cycle if it hasn't done that great early on? I'm Luckside. Welcome to the channel. If you guys haven't already, if you're new, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, hit that bell. Again, it's free to do, and we'll keep you updated anytime there's new content live here on the channel. So this is actually a couple questions from community members, and I asked people to, post comments, ask questions so that we can have these bigger, broader discussions that I'm sure a lot of people have questions about. And this was from Shark Gray, and what he said was, how do we get close to $1 to $2 by December? We can't even break past 36 cents. 35 to 36 has become the new 45 cents, which we were stuck in for months until it tanked even more. And that is a great question, right? So it's very easy to explain, to be honest with you guys. So 45 cents is a range that we got stuck in for about a month and a half. We were there basically from mid-April through the earlier part of June until the market decided to break down and set lower lows, ADA moving all the way down into this range that we're kind of dealing with currently. And what I want to point out is ADA was actually in the process of setting a nice strong floor at that range. And that was happening while BTC was actually trying to work its way up and break out. And unfortunately, the overall crypto market got a big rejection. We dealt with negative events and things like that, like we have during these past few months. And unfortunately, it pushed the overall prices of the market lower. And we get into these points where we're trying to have the demand meet the supply. Okay. And unfortunately, during this period of consolidation, we've had this point where demand has met supply a couple times, but then demand has fallen. So price drops further. So now we've been in this period basically since the latter part of August or beginning of August, where we've been waiting for that demand to really confirm. And when it comes to ADA, this is what I consider to be heavily discounted ADA. And this isn't financial advice or anything like that, but we look at what's been done, there's huge opportunity for growth from these levels. So what we're at right now is kind of a similar thing to what we did in the latter part of the bear market cycle, right? Same thing. We were waiting for that demand to catch the supply, demand dropped and fell off my obviously video here that you guys can see. But finally, we got to this point where there was enough demand to set a floor for our bounce. And ADA is doing that exact same thing right now. And now that we're getting to this point where some of the capital in the market is starting to free up, there's a little bit more excitement, BTC's on the possibility of a breakout. Now that the demand is caught up, that is how you start to make your way out of these low ranges. Otherwise, prices would just drop forever across the crypto space, and they don't. Right. And that brings me to this, right? How do we see ADA performing well later on this market cycle when it hasn't done that well early on? And what people need to understand is that the early part of the bull market and the later part of the bull market are two drastically different times. Okay. What you typically see early on in the bull market cycle is a lot of the same capital that has been here from the prior market cycle that's been parked in stables that hasn't really done a whole lot. It starts to flow back into assets. That's your initial surge that you usually see up until about March. And where things got kind of wild for ADA early on is from about this point here, about latter part of February, we saw an early inflow of capital from outside the space, which is something historically we normally don't see early on. Okay. And what it did for ADA was it actually moved it from about 58 cents all the way up to 81 cents. So what I want to point out the fact of is that later on in the market cycle, you see new capital enter the space. You see new users, you see more DeFi usage, you see bigger adoption rates, right? And what comes with that is more of what you saw early on this market cycle right here in basically this later part of February through March. So during that period of time, there was billions of dollars that flowed into ADA from outside the space. So now that we're approaching bigger times of adoption and new capital flowing in, those trends tend to stay consistent. The people outside the space, they flow into certain coins for certain reasons, whatever it may be. Look at which coins got the highest levels of inflows during that time. ADA, SHIB, and some others around the top of the space were some of the highest inflow coins. So now as we're getting into those times, where do we think capital is going to flow? ADA is typically a direct recipient of outside capital, which means that ADA is a better late market performer than it is an early market performer, right? People, they think that just because something hasn't done well early on means it isn't going to do well later. And that's not the case at all. Look at ADA last market cycle. It's done the exact same thing. Not that great early market performance. Once outside capital started flowing back in, was the better later market performance. What we're seeing right now, and the reason why we're seeing a little uptick in the market and the uptick in the ADA charts, is because some of that capital that is basically during this time flowed into stables and went to the sidelines, it's starting to flow back in just a little bit. And when this thing triggers and starts sending across the market, when BTC breaks out and starts pushing towards a new all-time high, and then alt season kicks off, this is where ADA performs its best. So I hope that was a nice, easy way to describe it for everybody. I know it's difficult to stomach that during these times. And frankly, these times suck. They're not great, right? But what they are is opportunity, because we know what comes following here. Big adoption, new users, billions and billions and billions of capital. And ADA is again set to be one of those coins that should, right, receive some of that capital directly. So I appreciate you guys as always. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts on this below. What do you think? Is this the way things are going to play out? And let me know if you guys have any other questions as well. Appreciate you guys as always. Have a great day. Show your love below. Catch you guys in the next one. Take care.